It's one of the most affordable dual boiler PID espresso machines available. It's relatively new to the market, but derived from one of the most iconic and loved machines in home espresso. With impressive specs, truly useful functions, and a great price, this feature-first machine is an incredible value and worth a serious look. Hey, espresso lovers, Mark here from Whole Latte Love. Does Miss Silvia mean something to you? Well, for a couple of decades now, the Rancilio Silvia has been an icon of the home espresso world. Along with machines like the Gaja Baby, the Silvia was one of the first home espresso machines to bring commercial capabilities and build quality to home espresso enthusiasts. Today, I'll have an in-depth look at the new Silvia Pro. It's a dual boiler, dual PID machine. Coming up, test results for out-of-the-box performance, including Scace brew temperature accuracy, brew pressure, milk steaming times, and more. Plus, I'll take you under the hood of the Silvia Pro for a detailed look at internals. You'll learn how the machine operates, what various components do, and the things I look for when evaluating capabilities and build quality. This is going to be a bit of a ride, but when we're done, I promise you will know this machine inside and out. Now, before we dive in, a little background on the origin of the Silvia. Bear with me for a little humble brag, if you will. Now, it was well before my time here, but as it turns out, folks at Whole Latte Love played a major role in making the Silvia available to the general public. It was more than 20 years ago they first saw the Silvia at Dallas Brothers Coffee in New York City. At the time, they were a distributor for Rancilio. The original Silvia was made as a promotional machine and only given to distributors. We knew there was a home market for the Silvia, so we asked them to make more, and we ended up being one of the first to offer the game-changing Silvia to home espresso enthusiasts. After 2 decades and thousands delivered by us, Miss Silvia remains one of the most loved premium entry-level single boiler machines. It has a dedicated user community that modifies the machines with things like PID and more. Now, unlike the original single boiler, the Silvia Pro is a dual boiler machine with extremely accurate PID temperature control of both boilers. With 2 boilers, you can brew and steam milk at the same time, so no extended waiting for a boiler to reach steaming temp. If you want it, steam is always available, and steaming or drawing hot water from the machine has no effect on brew temps. Starting up front to the left are the main power switch for turning the steam boiler on and off, and switch for dispensing hot water. Front and center is that PID display. This is where you set the temperatures for the brew and steam boilers and access some very useful additional functions. More on those in a minute. When idle, the display shows the current brew temp. Below the display, the coffee switch starts and stops an extraction and is used to select and confirm selections of extended functions in the display. When you start an extraction, the display becomes a shot timer. That's a really handy feature. To set brew temperature, use the minus and plus buttons to change, and then press the brew switch to confirm the change. The display will flash the set temperature until the boiler reaches the new setting. When the display is on solid, you are at the set temperature. When you turn on the Silvia Pro for the very first time, the steam boiler is off by default. To turn it on, just press the steam switch. When you do that, a light above the steam knob flashes, indicating the boiler is heating. Once that light is on solid, the steam boiler has reached its set temperature. Now, you don't have to turn the steam boiler on every time you turn the machine on. If it was on when you last used and you power off the machine, next time you turn the machine on, the steam boiler will be on. If the boiler was off when the machine was shut off, it will be off when you power up the machine again. With PID brew temperature set to 199, here's a look at brew temperature accuracy using a Scace device. As I start the pump, it takes about 10 seconds for temperature to equalize within the Scace. Rancilio says the Silvia Pro is accurate to plus or minus 1 degree of set temperature. And at around 13 seconds, temperature equalizes and the Scace is reading within 1 degree Fahrenheit as promised. As we continue, the temps only get closer to the 199 setting and hold steady, always within 0.3 of a degree and often much closer. That's honestly really incredible performance. That kind of accuracy is something I don't see all the time. Now, the Silvia Pro does not have a brew pressure gauge, so I got out a portafilter mounted gauge and checked that as well. As you'll see when we go inside the machine, there is an expansion valve to control max brew pressure. My gauge showed a hair over 9 bar, which is what you want on a machine like the Silvia Pro. The lack of a brew pressure gauge doesn't really bother me at all. After setting up a machine, I rarely pay any attention to them when pulling shots, and based on my testing, you can rest assured the Silvia Pro's pressure is set correctly right out of the box. Next up, we test the milk steaming performance. With the PID, you can set the steam boiler in a range from 248 to 257 degrees Fahrenheit. For the test, I have it set to the max of 257 so we can see just what the machine is capable of. The steam wand is uninsulated, so you're going to need to be careful where you grab that, and it has a commercial style 4-hole tip for excellent milk roll and mixing. For the test, we time how long it takes to steam 5 ounces of 45-degree Fahrenheit milk in the pitcher to a finish temp of about 140 degrees. The 4-hole steam tip gave a nice vigorous roll to the milk in the pitcher for excellent mixing and consistent texture. From start to finish, it took a respectable 18 seconds to take that milk from 45 degrees to the 140-degree finish temperature. The Silvia Pro's cup tray looks a lot like what you'd find on a regular Silvia, but it has a little trick. These rails are adjustable to give you 3 different heights from the cup platform. Not a huge deal really, but allows you to adjust cup height relative to the portafilter spouts and position it to leave room for a scale if you use one to weigh shots for brew ratios. The drip tray is rather small, so you need to keep an eye on that. If there's one thing I'd really like on this machine, it's a larger drip tray. The Silvia Pro comes with one portafilter with double spouts. It's not technically an angled portafilter, but the way the handle rests, the filter basket ends up level to countertops for easier tamping. Single and double shot filter baskets are included, but be aware the double is a traditional Italian size with a maximum dose weight in the 15 to 16 gram range if you push it. If you're apt to do larger doses, which is common, you'll want to pick up a basket with higher capacity. The design of the portafilter is a bit shallower than most, so the largest filter basket I could fit was this 18 gram capacity Baristapro basket with a rated height of 24 millimeters. That could be a limitation for some, as there's no way to fit larger baskets in the stock portafilter. You'd need to pick up something like this Rancilio bottomless portafilter, which can accommodate triple shot baskets. The machine comes with a real tamper, metal with wood handle, something you don't usually get at this level. You'll also get a group brush, coffee scoop, a stopper and cleaning tablets for back flushing, and a BWT Best Save pad filter. I was happy to see that, as BWT products with patented calcium to magnesium ion exchange technology are my first choice for preventing limescale formation in espresso machines. Before we go for our internal tour, a look at the extended functions available through the display. To access these, press and hold the plus and minus keys for 3 seconds. T2 will show up, and you can navigate through the extended functions using the plus and minus keys. To select a function, press the brew switch, then make changes using the plus and minus keys, then confirm by pressing the brew switch again. Here's a list of available functions. T2, that's going to set the steam boiler temperature. F01 starts a 3-step group head cleaning with back flushing. F02 manages automatic wake up. Basically with that, you can put the machine in standby and then it'll wake up after a set number of hours. F03 and F04 are used to drain the coffee and steam boilers. That's a very rare feature and useful for putting a machine in long-term storage and for other functions. F05 manages automatic shutdown. You can set a time out to 2 hours to have the machine turn off or disable that automatic shutdown there. F06 selects from Fahrenheit or Celsius temperature display, and F07 selects operating voltage. Let's take a detailed look inside the Silvia Pro. We'll start at the back here, work our way forward, talk about the different boilers, that kind of thing. So first thing you notice, you got 3 tubes here. You know, like, what's going on? Well, this is where the water reservoir would sit, would be kind of like up in here. I've taken that all off, and these 3 tubes would all be in there. So this funny looking one here, that is for sensing the water level. So that's going to sit, sorry, I'll untwist that. That's going to sit in the reservoir here. It connects down in. There's a little place where it connects in, so it'll be like that. And what it kind of does is senses the pressure of the water in there using this sensor here, and this lets the machine know if it's out of water. You'll get a message in the display up front that it's out of water. So that's that one. It's kind of a unique system. A lot of machines will use conductivity of the water and probes or weight or something, and this is going to use the air pressure through this. Other two tubes here. Start with this one. This is how water gets to the pump. These are silicone tubes. You'll notice after the pumps, it's all either going to be copper or this braided stainless, but you have two pumps in here, kind of a unique setup. This pump here, this is for your brewing. It provides all your brew pressure. That's why it's a stainless line like this. The back one here, this one fills the service boiler right here. Notice that's copper. So let's take a look at that service boiler. It's a 1 liter stainless steel. It's got the nice insulated jacket on it there. So up top here, we'll start over on this side. This is where your steam's going to come off. If you're taking hot water out the boiler, this comes through this pipe here off the bottom. Hot water always comes off the bottom of a boiler like this. Right here we have what's called the vacuum relief valve. So when the machine is cold, it's open to outside pressure. As the boiler heats up, you know, if you ever heard these things heating up, you'll hear a little hissing as they hit, you know, about boiling point, start creating steam. And then, you know, little water vapor, sometimes little spurts of water come out of here. That's why there's this tube here, which is going to go down and out to the drip tray in the front. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Something I always look for in a machine, that, you know, you're not going to be venting moisture internally in the machine every time it heats up. Going back here, this is our fill level probe. So this is how the machine knows when to fill up with the water. It doesn't fill all the way because it needs some space to create the steam in there. Right next to there are the connections to the heating element. I believe it's 850 watts in this boiler. Then this bad boy back here, this is the safety valve. This is a 1.9 bar safety valve. Yep, it's got this big tube here. So if the pressure in this boiler exceeds 1.9 bar, this valve opens and releases pressure. That's why we've got a really big tube. This tube also goes out to the drip tray. Now, it's very rare for that to happen. It's just for safety. If the pressure builds up too much in that boiler, bad things could happen. So that is the service boiler for your steam and your hot water. Here is the brew boiler. This is a brass boiler, 0.3 liter, I believe. Let's take a look at that. It's got the jacket on here. Oh, and so you're getting passive heat off of these all the time when the machine's on. I had the top cover off. This thing is solid. It reminds me of the old Expo Bar machines that were just built like bricks. So that would be sitting here, and you'd be getting all that heat passively coming up and heating your cups. And this gets nice and warm when the machine is on. It really does a nice job heating up your cups. But let's take a look at that. So going in, so there's that braided stainless line. So you're under pressure here. Then we have what's called an expansion valve here, or I call it an OPV for overpressure valve. This is what controls the brew pressure. So this releases pressure at a set point, right around 9 bars. So you're gonna get 9 bar of pressure. And then any excess water, or pressure really, is bled off through here. And this is gonna be cold water here. It's still cool. That would go back to your water reservoir if the pressure is exceeding 9 bar. Up top here, this is a PID probe right here. So this senses the temperature in the boiler. The one on the service boiler comes in from the bottom. The connection for the heating element. Then we have 2 high limit switches up here. So these guys, I think they're 140 degrees centigrade. So if you get above that in this boiler, you see that little white stuff there? That's like a heat paste. It helps the heat transfer so it can sense it. If they get above 140 degrees, these will pop like circuit breakers. And then you can, if you had to reset them, you just take off the screws off the top, get in there and push those back down just like you would a circuit breaker. So that is the brew boiler. Over here, again, the hot water coming off the bottom of the service boiler. Little solenoid valve here, so when you click the switch out front for hot water, it opens this valve, and then you get hot water out the front here. So let's take a look at the front now. I think that's everything inside. Oh, yeah, we'll show you. Here's a little Jacquard controller for the PIDs. Again, both boilers are controlled by PID. So that's down here. We got a couple static relays here. They control power going to the boilers, those short little pulses that are really what makes a PID system works, just little pulses of power once you reach temperature to keep very accurate temperatures. Okay, out front. So I've taken this cover off. So this usually sits here. I'll take the portafilter out. So this is a group head. So that cover would generally be here. I've also taken the cover off the front here so you can see back in here. Now here's where the that vacuum relief valve drains, and here's where that safety valve, should it go, again, that's probably never going to happen, but if it did, all that water is going to end up outside into the drip tray. Our group head here, all the brass in this machine, by the way, is certified lead-free, and the Italian standards are actually tighter than most of the US standards. Right here, this is our three-way solenoid valve. So at the end of an extraction, when it stops, this valve opens and it releases water and pressure from the puck that's in here, and then that travels down into your drip tray. That's how you get a real nice dry puck. When you hear people talk about three-way solenoid valves on a machine like this, that's it. Of course, there's where our hot water is going to come out. Our steam, if we haven't already talked about it, 4-hole steam tip. This steam wand is not insulated, so this will get hot, but you can grab it here. And then, you know, the other switches and what have you here, steam valve and the PID controller. So that was a look inside the machine. Overall, I'm really impressed with the Silvia Pro. Could it maybe use a larger drip tray? Sure. But I'm going to live with that at this price. Are there machines which you'd call more beautiful? Yeah, but those highly polished and finished dual boilers with E61 groups are going to be far more expensive than the Silvia Pro. What we have here is a solid, well-built, feature-first machine with excellent specs and a doable price. That's the Rancilio Silvia Pro. It's available now from Whole Latte Love. As always, if you have any questions, use those comments, and I'd be happy to get you a detailed answer. You know, if you love this stuff, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. I'm Mark, and I hope you'll come on back soon for more of the best on everything coffee, brought to you by Whole Latte Love.